If you call my cell phone, pick up the phone. I'm not going to give that number, but if you were to call this number, this is what you would get as a message from me. Hi, this is Wayne Dyer that you've reached, and I want to feel good. If your call is designed to do anything other than that, you have reached the wrong number, and I urge you to call Dr. Phil. And at any moment that you're not feeling good, you are attracting exactly the opposite of what it is that you would like to attract into your life. You are using this as a way to keep yourself from feeling God or feeling good. If you are listening to the news, and the news is filled with all of the reasons why you should be depressed, and it's not an accident that then they are sponsored by all of the reasons why you should take these narcotics or these pills or whatever it is in order to get over. So here's some depression, and wait a minute, we'll be right back. Here's a way out of it, okay? I saw a commercial the other day. I don't even know what it was for. Some guy gets up in the morning, and he's going out to get clams. And he's going out clamming in the morning, and he's successful at getting the clams. He walks off, and he's got his clams. And I think, and then they say, call your doctor to see if you need some of this clam-finding miracle drug. There's a drug out there that'll help you find clams if this happens to be one of your problems. All right? And there's something out there, and now we're being told to call our doctors. Do I need the orange pill, the green pill, the purple pill? Do I need this one? I saw so-and-so reading it, and she was skating on the ice, and I want to skate on the ice. And it's like it's an endless progression of this. It's one of the reasons that I put so much of my energy into public television. Because when I watch the evening news, when I watch Jim Lehrer on the evening news on PBS, which is the only news that I watch, I don't get bombarded with all of the reasons why. And I also get sort of either side of this thing. I don't just get a one-sided view of it. And it's like it's an energy system. I'd like to say to you here that my idea about connecting to intention has certain obstacles to getting there. And I just want to very briefly go through what those obstacles are and then move into what it is that you need to do to understand what this field looks like and what you can do to stay connected to it. Keeping in mind these words, I want to feel good. I know my beautiful daughter, who will be singing in a little while, Sky, she was working on a music project. And she had come to me and she said, she was going to school at the University of Miami. And she said, Dad, would you mind if I dropped out of school? And since I have been a person who has never, ever listened to any advice that adults ever gave me throughout my life about what I should do with my life, because I believe it's something that you have to own yourself, I said, why? And she said, well, I want to sing. I've always just wanted to sing. It's the only thing that's in my heart is singing. And what I've discovered, she said, is that I can't sit in classrooms anymore in my junior year and be told how to sing by people who are not singing. And she said, I also don't want to study theory any longer. I want to sing. I just feel it in my heart. I said, that's great. I said, I'd like to take you with me when I talk all over the country, all over the world. And I'd like you to sing for me, because I'm always so proud to have her on stage with me, as you'll see why shortly. And I said to her, I said, honey, but what you've got to do is perhaps put together a project, perhaps put together a CD, get some way that you can come out and sing at the talks and include on this some of the music that is relevant to what I speak about. And she said, okay. And I was over on Maui and I was writing. And she called me, she said, Dad, the problem is that the musicians that I need to be able to do this are not available. And you can't get them. And I said, Sky, you've got to contemplate yourself as surrounded by the conditions which you wish to produce. Don't think about the musicians as not being available. Contemplate yourself surrounded by the musicians, and you'll see that when you reconnect to this source will provide. It always does. It's an unfailing system. It's fail-safe. She said, all right, Dad the dork, you know. She called me back the next day. She said, "You're not going to believe this, Dad. I did what you said last night, and all the musicians are available." I just can't believe it. She said they called the ones that I wanted, especially they had a cancellation on something. She said the only problem is that the studios that I need in order to be able to record it are unavailable. There's no studios available in any place in South Florida, and I want to get this in, and I had given her a deadline of like 4 days to get this done, an entire CD. So she called me back and she said, "How do I get a studio?" I said, "Sky, contemplate yourself as surrounded by the conditions which you wish to produce." The law of flotation was not discovered. All right, I got it with the flotation, okay? She called me back the next morning. She said, "Dad, it's a miracle." She said the studios had a cancellation, and the studio that I really need and the musicians, they're all available. I can put the whole thing together. It's so exciting. This stuff really works. I said, "Of course it does." She said, "The only problem is that it costs quite a bit of money to pay these musicians and to have the studio time." I said, "Sky, honey, you've got to contemplate yourself as surrounded by the conditions which you want to produce." She said, "That's why I'm calling you." And I said, "But honey, I want to feel good." She said, "Maybe you should call Dr. Phil." She said, "And this will make you feel good, because you will be contemplating yourself as surrounded by a daughter who is so..." She used it all right back on me. And she did it, and she got it done, and she was able to produce it. One of the things I do is I run in hallways when I'm traveling on the road, because I like to do my running every day, but I don't like to, if it's very cold or very hot, I don't like to have to carry a lot. So I just carry a pair of shorts. And I run up and down the hallway like this. I run here, and I run up and down, and I get an hour of running out there in the hallways of hotels. Now, there are people behind the doors very often who don't anticipate a sweaty man running on the hallway. And there are times when the doors will open and I'll be running and I'll hear someone walk by. "What is that guy doing? What's wrong with him? Doesn't he know that there's a track? This isn't the place." And he's using my experience out here as a reason to be offended. And he's still on the way down. He's yelling at his wife about the fact that I shouldn't be there. Oftentimes goes home, kicks the cat, whatever it is, because... But one day I was running, and there's a different view of it as well. It's very interesting. Because I was running in the hallway one time, and the door opened, and a woman had to be 92, 93 years old. So it was in Little Rock, Arkansas. And she opened up the door, and I was running right past her. She had a little walker. She said, "Young man." I immediately loved this lady. Huh? She said, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "Well, ma'am," I said, and I stopped. I was running in place. I said, "I just like to get my heart rate going up there. It's really good, and I didn't want to go outside because it's very hot out there today." She said, "You got that much energy this time of the morning to be out there running?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Why don't you come on into this room with me for a little while?" Now, there's a woman who had a great sense of humor. I tell people always, think from the end. Think from the end. So I was talking to a man one day down where I work out in the gym, and I said to him, he's been sick, he's got nose running, he's got, Snoopy's running out of his nose, he's got, it's disgusting. And I said, how long have you been sick, Marty? You will never believe this answer. He said, in 3 weeks, it'll be a month. What kind of thinking is that? I was changing plane in Dallas one time, and there was about 8 minutes to go before I had to make a connection. And the woman next to me, she said, I said, I'd really appreciate if I could just step in front of you because I'm going to make my connection. She said, you're going to have to change trains and get to another terminal. She said, there's no way that you can make your connection. She's still in Dallas. I think from the end, I see myself as already connected to that which I want to attract into my life. And if it doesn't work out for some reason, I don't use blame, I don't get anger, I just simply say to myself, this is the way it is supposed to be, and I'm at peace with it. When I was 19 years old, I joined the Navy right after high school in 1958. And I was going overseas to connect to my ship after having gone to school. And I was standing at the dock boarding a ship called the USS Vega, which is a refrigerator ship, which was taking me across the Pacific Ocean in 29 days to meet the USS Ranger, an aircraft carrier, at that time the largest ship in the world, and I was assigned to it. And it was docked in a place called Yokosuka, Japan. And I took a boat, this refrigerator boat, over to Sasebo in southern Japan, got on a train, 19 years old, and was going to catch my boat 29 days later. 19-year-old kid. And as I got on the boat, never having been on such an adventure before, my Uncle Bill, who was a school teacher in Hayward, California, one of my heroes, one of the reasons why I'm here today is because of my Uncle Bill Volley, he handed me a book. And it was a collection of short stories by a man named Leo Tolstoy. He said to me, as he handed it to me, he said, "Read The Death of Ivan Ilyich by Leo Tolstoy." And The Death of Ivan Ilyich is a story of a man very quickly who was a judge in Moscow. And he went back and forth every day to work, and he hated his work, and he hated his life, and he hated his wife. And he hated everything about what he was doing, and yet he still pursued it. And he got to the end of his life, and he was lying on his deathbed, and he looked up at his wife, who was holding his hands, and he looked into her eyes. And I was 19 when I read this, and it still gives me goose flesh. He said to her as he died, "What if my whole life has been wrong?" And I took out a pad of paper, and I wrote down my first of my 10 secrets for success in Interpace. And I started a journal at that time, and it said, "Dear Wayne, don't die with your music still in you. Don't die with your music still in you." Yesterday, we went to a movie. I came home from the movie, and there was a man on the street in Boston who was homeless. And he was mentally challenged, obviously. And he had a little cup, and he asked for some change. And I looked at him, and I always send a sort of a silent blessing to these people. And then I was walking, and I kept thinking, you're giving a talk tomorrow about kindness. And I went back, and I had about $4 worth of change in my pocket, and I had to chase him. He went downstairs someplace, and he was dirty, and he was, and he couldn't speak right. And I took this change, and I just took his cup, and I put it. And you'd have thought that I had given this man, $1 million. I mean, he followed me. He couldn't stop thanking. Tears were coming down. It's a simple little act of kindness. And I'm not suggesting to every single one of you that everybody who asks you for money, you are obliged to give them money. But can you give them a silent blessing? Can you give them a smile instead of using them as a reason to be upset? The serotonin levels in you are increased to the same degree that they are in the receiver. And so is your immune system strengthened. You want to strengthen your immune system? Be kind. But even more dramatic than that, I get excited about this. Because this is what blows me away about it, is that the observer of an act of kindness, has their serotonin levels and their immune system strengthened just because they're in the energy field of someone who is displaying kindness. When you see someone being kind to another person, it's like a dose of an antidepressant. It's like a serotonin rush. Very often in my talks, and I'll ask, who is the person out there in the audience who had someone buy your ticket because you couldn't afford it, and you couldn't afford to come here, and they paid your way to get here, and they just wanted you to be here because they felt it was so important that you be there? And someone will always raise their hand. I'll bring them up, and I'll say, "So what did they spend?" And they'll say, $100. They gave me and they couldn't even afford it themselves. And I'll reach in my pocket, and I'll hand her the $100. And I'll say, "Could I extend to you this kindness back so that you can repay that person?" And everyone, you can see teeth that you couldn't see for the previous hour. Everybody is smiling and laughing and happy and excited. And it cost me $100. You know how much antidepressant you'd have to take? That's $10,000 worth of pills, and you got to call your doctor. Do I need the purple one? I want to get some clams. I don't know if I'm going to get. Every time I walk, wherever I go, in fact, it happened to me this morning. I found a dime. A dime. That's like major. A dime. That's 10 pennies. That's 5 bottles. And whenever I bend over, and I notice that it gets a little further away, I bend over and I pick up this coin, and I always say, "Thank you, God, for this symbol of abundance that always flows into my life." Never once have I ever said, "How come only a dime? I need $1,000. Why are you only giving me a dime?" It reminds me of a wonderful story of a grandmother who was living in that consciousness, and she was walking along the beach, and she had her little grandson with her, and all of a sudden this huge wave came right out of the ocean, gobbled up, took the son, and he was gone, just disappeared. She got down on her knees, she prayed, "Oh my God, please send my grandson back. How could this be? This is the worst moment of my life. Please send my grandson back." And all of a sudden another wave came along, and plop! There was her grandson, right there next to her feet. And she looked up and she said, "He was wearing a hat." I'd like to close out this program on the power of intention with a story that was sent to me by my dear friend, Ellen. It's called Attitude. A 92-year-old, petite, well-poised, and proud lady who's fully dressed each morning by 8 o'clock, 92 years old, with her hair fashionably coiffed and makeup perfectly applied, even though she's legally blind and moved to a nursing home today. Her husband of 70 years recently passed away, making the move necessary. After many hours of waiting patiently in the lobby of this nursing home, she smiled sweetly when she told her room was now ready. As she maneuvered her walker to the elevator, I provided a visual description of her tiny room, including the eyelet sheets that had been hung on the window. "I love it," she stated, with the enthusiasm of an 8-year-old, having just been presented with a new puppy. "But Mrs. Jones, you haven't even seen the room yet. Just wait." "That doesn't have anything to do with it," she said. "Happiness is something you decide on ahead of time. Whether I like my room or not doesn't depend on how the furniture is arranged. It's how I arrange my mind. When you change the way you look at things, even if you're legally blind, the things you look at change." God bless you.